Go ahead, take a deep breath. Ever really stop and think about where all that air is going? Well, a huge chunk of it is being sent straight to the most complex, most amazing object we know of, your brain. Today, we're going to dive into the incredible and sometimes kind of terrifying relationship between your brain and the very air it breathes.
So what happens when it just stops? It's a question we don't like to think about, but the answer is shockingly brutally fast. See, your brain isn't like a muscle that can just tough it out for a while. Oh no, it is a delicate and unbelievably demanding machine. And when the power goes out, the shutdown is almost instant.
Just look at these numbers. It is wild. This is the timeline of your brain being starved of oxygen. In just 5 to 10 seconds, before you could even finish a short text, you could pass out. Within 30 seconds, your sense of reality, your consciousness, just dissolves. And after only 3 minutes, we're talking about irreversible brain damage. That's how fragile this whole experience of being you really is.
So how are we going to unpack this incredible story? Well, first we'll get into the brain's big secret, its absolutely massive appetite for oxygen. Then we're going to zoom way in, down to the cellular level, to see what it takes to power a single thought. After that, we'll explore the ingenious ways our bodies have evolved to protect this vital organ, and of course, what happens when those systems fail. And finally, and this is the important part for you, we'll see how you can play an active role in keeping your brain healthy. All right, first up, let's tackle what I like to call the brain's oxygen paradox. It's a tiny little organ with a truly giant appetite.
Okay, so picture this, your brain. It's only about 2% of your total body weight. That's it. It's like a small bag of sugar in a shopping cart that's full of groceries. So you think, okay, it probably just sips a tiny fraction of the body's resources, right?
Well, think again. Get this. That tiny 2% organ absolutely devours 20% of your body's oxygen supply. That's right. A full 1/5 of every single breath you take is being routed directly to your brain. It's an absolute powerhouse, which, as we're seeing, also makes it incredibly vulnerable.
So what does that boil down to, second by second? It's about 1 milliliter of pure oxygen. That's it. It sounds like nothing, right? But that tiny, constant trickle, that is literally the difference between thinking, feeling, and perceiving, and not.
Okay, so we've seen the big picture. Now let's zoom way in. We're talking cellular level. What does it actually take to power a single fleeting thought? Inside your brain, the name of the game is ATP, adenosine triphosphate. You can just think of it like cash. It's the energy currency your cells spend to get anything done. And your neurons? They are high rollers, constantly burning through this stuff at an astonishing rate to power every single thought, every memory, everything you perceive. It's a non-stop, high-energy job. And here's where your brain is, well, kind of special, and not in a good way. Your muscles, right? When you're really pushing it at the gym, they can switch to a backup generator, an oxygen-free system. It's not ideal, but it works for a bit. Your brain? Nope. It has no backup plan. It is 100% dependent on oxygen, all the time, no exceptions. Think about it like this. Your brain, right now, as you're listening to me, is generating about 20 watts of power continuously. That's enough to run a dim light bulb, a light bulb that, for you, is never, ever supposed to turn off.
So if the brain is so demanding and so fragile, how on earth have we survived all this time? Well, evolution came up with some pretty brilliant solutions. Your brain basically has its own built-in, super smart delivery service. It's called cerebral autoregulation. When a part of your brain starts working harder, it produces more carbon dioxide as waste. That CO2 acts like a little signal flag, telling the nearby blood vessels, hey, we need more juice over here. And boom, those vessels widen and more oxygen-rich blood rushes in. It's an automatic, on-demand system.
But where did all this energy come from in the first place, evolutionarily speaking? Well, there's this really cool idea called the expensive tissue hypothesis. The theory is that as humans evolved these massive, energy-hungry brains, we had to make a trade. We basically downsized our digestive system, our guts got smaller and more efficient, to free up all that metabolic energy. So, in a way, we literally traded gut for brain power. This whole system is amazing, but it is balanced on a razor's edge. So what happens when this delicate system gets pushed too far?
Let's take high-altitude mountaineering. They call altitudes above 8,000 meters the death zone for a reason. Up there, the air is so thin, the atmospheric pressure is so low that your body just can't pull in enough oxygen, and your brain is the very first thing to start going haywire.
And it's not just on mountains. This chart shows a few ways things can go wrong. At high altitude, like we said, that low pressure can lead to confusion, memory problems, even dangerous swelling in the brain. Then you have something like cardiac arrest, where blood flow just stops completely. The clock starts ticking instantly. You have maybe 3 to 5 minutes before permanent damage starts setting in. And with a stroke, a blood vessel gets blocked, and a whole region of the brain is just starved of oxygen, causing cells to die off rapidly. In every case, the brain is the first and most critical casualty.
Okay, so this all sounds a little scary, right? But here's the good news. You are not just a helpless bystander in all of this. There is a powerful connection between your breath and your brain, and you have more control than you might think. You can actually optimize this whole system. Things like regular aerobic exercise, that doesn't just help your heart, it massively boosts blood flow to your brain and can even help grow new neurons. And mindful breathing, simple exercises, that can actually help stabilize those CO2 levels and make that smart delivery system we talked about even more efficient. And sleep. Sleep is huge. It's when your brain cleans house and manages its energy budget. The point is, your choices matter a lot.
It really brings us to this simple but kind of profound idea. Each breath feeds the organ that creates the experience of living. Every single breath you take is literally fueling your reality.
So it all comes down to this. 1 milliliter of oxygen every single second. That's the fuel that sustains the absolute miracle of thought. So, what are you going to do with your next one?